Good afternoon and good evening, everybody. It's been a while since we've heard those beats, and it's good to be back. Welcome back to Coast EVs, your, once again, fortnightly fast charge on electric vehicles and infrastructure. And I guess my work has to continue now, as we will have to be up next day on all the audio platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, all the usual places you find your audio EV delights. We are back. So that was a big summer. Nice hiatus, I have to say. It was good to not be editing things down for a few weeks there, months, I guess, now. But I obviously, you can see we are joined by Mr. Landon West, the Arkansas e-traveler, in town to help us, or online and in stream, to help us digest some of the topics of the day that he came across this summer. Let's go around really quickly. How was everybody's summer? Starting from Walter.
My wife's was epic, but I was stuck at home.
Oh, fun. Oh, you were doing tours of the I-95 corridor in North Carolina.
Yeah.
What could be more valuable than that?
No, I did have bookend trips to ACT in LA, where I was lucky enough to meet up with you, and also at the back end of it, after my wife got back, I was able to go to DC through sheer force of will, and also touched base at the Atlantic Ocean as well.
Happy days, happy days. Eric, the trails of Northern California have been your home, not definitely updating us on the infrastructure and around your way.
Yeah, I mean, I've done a few trips, just kind of regionally, kind of locally. I've just had a lot of stuff that's not even been EV related that I've been having to take care of. So hopefully this latter half of latter section of the summer goes a little bit better. But yeah, I even took my Volt for a little cruise down. So that was quite interesting. Not a lot of progress, but we've got word now, and I'm in honor. I'm wearing my Black Bear Diner t-shirt. We're gonna be getting a relatively local Iona charger at the Black Bear Diner here, which is really nice to hear. So I think that's a great location for it, and so there's a lot of activity. Things are happening. So
for sure. Today was, in case anyone didn't catch it, the first Iona in California went live down in Vista. So I don't know the exact area, but you're now live in your state. So it can only be a matter of time before the Black Bear Diner is hosting it.
Yeah.
And last but not least, Landon at the Arkansas e-traveler. Lots of work for you, not just because of school, but what have you got to share with us as we dive back into the season?
Sure. Summer was really, really good. We enjoyed a week in Punta Cana, Dominican Republic. Came back and had an appendectomy 4 days later, so cutting it a little close there. And then I went on a trip with a friend of mine up to Pittsburgh. Flew there, enjoyed pierogies and kielbasi and everything else, saying yins to everybody instead of y'all. That was a great trip, staying right next to the ballpark. And then we had one more trip to Franklin, North Carolina. Unfortunately, all of those were with Southwest Airlines, and not one of them went according to plan. I saw my luggage go to Baltimore as I went to Atlanta. Got to Atlanta, saw an all-out brawl at the carriage carousel. So I was missing my Blazer EV immensely by the end of summer, just because I wanted to be back in control. And I don't destroy my own luggage or lose it. So, just a lot of flying, but not a ton of driving. Did manage to go up to Blue Springs, Missouri at the beginning to do Walter's out-of-spec bits meetup. And then 2 weekends ago, we went to Chakota, Oklahoma to meet up with EV Texans and film a section there showing the place and testing some things with GM Ultium platform vehicles. So, it's been a pretty busy summer. Changed jobs, moved to working in Centerton, Arkansas. And me and my wife have been getting the house ready for the birth of our daughter in early November. So it's been very, very frantic. If I had any hair left to lose, I would have lost it. But yeah, all good.
Big congratulations. Wonderful, wonderful news. And it's a a fun time, definitely a stressful time. I can relate. But I'm sure we'll love every minute of it once it arrives. So good stuff. Yes, I have to apologize for my pastiness. It's partially because I'm English and was back in the UK, but more because I'm using my laptop camera here. I had one cord and decided to use it for audio. The camera, so maybe I'll change midway through, see if that makes a difference. But either way, I'm English and do need to get more sun. That is a perennial state of being. I've slid up everybody's comments and hellos here just to let us kind of get through some of the topics a little more quickly, but we've seen some familiar faces, some new folks. Thank you very much for letting us know where you are and what you're driving. I'll start with myself really quickly because I am now driving courtesy of Greenwave Electric Vehicles back in a 2017 Bolt EV, all the way back to the first vehicle or all electric vehicle at least. We have some Volt in our past as well, like you, Eric, but we never kept that. So yes,
that
we're
one
back
looks
in.
Familiar.
It's very, very similar. Yes, it doesn't have 100 and whatever 1,000 miles you're on, but it does have 120 on the clock and a relatively fresh battery pack. So this is our local runarounds because I can no longer be in two places at once with kids on various sides of the city. So yeah, we have that. And actually, Landon mentioning the Blazer EV made me remember my in-laws who are died in the wool Tesla people, got their second vehicle, electric vehicle, Chevy Blazer. So they took a road trip up to from North Carolina to Pennsylvania recently and were pretty happy with that. They had some Tesla kind of post-Tesla shock syndrome, but they still have their Model Y as well. So if they have a problem with that, we will make it work. And I think I had this before we took the break. Actually, my other family members have a Equinox EV, so we're getting a lot of GM vehicles in the stable. So that's a fun time. Glad to have that. We did want to get into the news today, which for this one, I have it. Probably didn't even put this on. See how out of practice I am. The main topic that I kind of wanted to hit was Mercedes-Benz high-power charging, adding in HYC 1000s from next year. Now, this kind of caught me off guard a little bit on Sunday. I was pushing out a newsletter and realized that someone had posted on LinkedIn about it, and that means 600 kilowatt charging coming to the Mercedes-Benz high-power charging network from next year. And it kind of landed at the same time as the Supercharger for business. Tesla putting out another kind of way to get superchargers on your property, kind of managed by Tesla but owned by the site host. So I kind of wanted to dive into that a little bit. And Walter, as you're all eyes on the Mercedes-Benz high-power charging network, maybe you can kind of put a little color on your, first thoughts on they're already using Alpatronic HYC 400s, which don't, leave anything really on the table for most vehicles. Getting 600 kilowatts plus the HYC 1000s kind of overall site level power. What are you thinking as you kind of digest that news?
Yeah, so they were kind of the tip of the spear as far as OEMs putting in really nice plans that actually started to unfold according to the announcements. And just recently, over the summer, they also announced that they're going to stop selling electric vehicles. And I just kind of posted into LinkedIn. I'm like, does this mean the high-powered charging network is going to stop as well? And it seemed like a valid question from my perspective, but I got a lot of feedback real quick from people who work there saying, no, we're fine. Everything's fine. So the Mercedes-Benz high-powered charging network apparently is still proceeding. I haven't seen any stations open in the past couple of weeks. That might just be coincidence, but as you say, there's been press releases concerning European installations of HYC 1000s, and we have to assume that's going to be coming to the United States as well. Correct me if I'm wrong. Ionity also is going to be doing 600 kilowatt in Europe. So that seems to be the new standard or the new high water mark getting ready to roll out there. And we're very likely going to be going in lockstep thereafter. I haven't seen any plans. The only plans I've seen for 1000s are at the BP Pulse travel centers for the semi refueling, but I think that's held up with the MCS standard getting ratified before those actually start going into the ground.
Yeah, I will say, like, when we'd seen the HYC 1000 at some of the trade shows back in the spring, my mind just went, you see 1000, you think fleet, right? You're looking at trucks, HDEVs, the longer haul kind of vehicles that have the massive batteries to fill. But the more I think about it, obviously you've got the kind of concept vehicles trying to really nail down those 10 to 80% times to 10 minutes down to that 5 minute kind of time that we're starting to see in China. There's a technology piece to it, but there's also the a truck, Eric, the Silverado EV, the GMC Denali EV. Those are 200 plus kilowatt hour packs, so maybe there is a place for this, right? These can start to be the next level of not even letting the infrastructure get a little bit behind, really jumping ahead again as we start to wait for the EVs to get to this level where they can all do that kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like that was always sort of the plan, at least for if you want to differentiate between like private and versus commercial industrial, because the MCS standard, as I recall, is over 4 megawatts. It's 3 to 4 megawatt peak power, and you're talking about, at that point, you're talking about something like a semi with a 800 kilowatt hour battery pack, right? But even for private individuals or privately owned commercial businesses, things like the Silverado EV with a 200 kilowatt hour battery pack, you're going to want something more substantial even than a 350 kilowatt, 400 kilowatt charger. And then, of course, the idea of being able to split that power too. But I was going to say it's really not kind of even that surprising, because technically Tesla's V4s were already capable of 600 kilowatt. We know they were paired with their V3 cabinets, and people are calling it like V3.5 or whatever, right? But in theory, the cable itself and the dispenser itself is capable of 600 kilowatts of power dispensing, as long as the vehicle can take it. So yeah, I think there's and like you said, with these 400 to 500 mile EVs, if you want to be getting charging down to 10 to 15 minutes to go from 10 to 80%, you're going to have to be putting out that kind of power. So I think it is a sort of a natural progression.
And if I could piggyback on that just very quickly, concerning the Tesla Supercharger network and the whole V4 onset, the problem is Tesla has 30,000 stalls already in the ground, and I think they're starting to see some pressure from all these 400 kilowatt Alphys showing up all over the place from basically every other CPO putting in Alphys besides Tesla. And all of a sudden, Tesla is starting to look like antiquated technology, which is contrary to their brand image. And so they're trying to get on top of it with the whole V4 pairing of dispensers and chargers. But it's going to take a long time before there's any form of stall count with V4s out there. I mean, they are a pretty relentless team, but even still, there's a pretty large burgeoning sea of Alphys at 400 kilowatts, which are making all the V2 and V3 stations seem a little bit obsolete.
And I can testify to what he's saying, because when I was filming in Chakota, Oklahoma, there was a Tesla owner, I believe, Cybertruck, maybe. No, yeah, it was a Cybertruck, who was ecstatic to see this new NACS-enabled Alpitronic hypercharger, because there's not a supercharger near Chakota, and trying to get from Northwest Arkansas to DFW, Chakota smack dab in the middle. But when he plugged it in, he saw numbers that he had not seen before. And so that's playing out quite a bit. All of a sudden, there's a little bit of a tarnish here on the otherwise standard network. And so I agree with that 100%, and I've seen it play out with some people.
And Landon, I was going to ask too, with the Walmart, isn't there an alternative? They're doing the ABB. Now I'm forgetting what the designation for that is, though, but it's basically the alternative to the Alpitronic hypercharger.
Sure. Yeah. The ABB A400.
Yeah,
We're seeing that those are being used in Phoenix. We have them in the ground out there, and they're showing up in permitting all over Florida. So I would say we'll get into it later, but it's a pretty even split so far between those two manufacturers for Walmart.
So would you think that they would have a need to go to something like the HYC 1000? Is that, given the way they've set up sites so far and the amount of power they're delivering, does that, I mean, we'll get into dwell time later, but
Right.
just as having the leading technology, can you see that being something that would work for them?
I don't know. That's really, really future proofing. I'd have a Blazer EV. I'm lucky to get 150 kilowatts for 10 minutes. So that's I think for a lot of EV owners, like that is just way out there. I mean, once we kind of reach a point where 400 volt architecture is obsolete, maybe, but until that time, I don't know.
Well, and Landon, getting past the stigma too of like Walmart, a lot of people go there because they need to buy groceries, they need to shop, right? There are people who use Walmart because it's a store, and you don't need, even talking about future proofing, you're not needing to put 400 or 500 or 600 miles into an EV battery pack in the 30 minutes that you're going to be picking up cat food.
Right. Right. Well, and I can't wait to talk about this towards later on. But there actually might be some things that we've read from Walmart Energy or whatever that maybe that could be something that they're interested in later. I'm not saying, using HYC 1000s, but I'm saying like, drop the hammer on the power. So it's going to be interesting, and that's why I'm so glad that we get to talk about it tonight, because I'm in a very isolated Walmart playground area where I see the very best of the very best, and sometimes it gets a little gilded compared to what maybe some other people experience. So that's why I'm so looking forward to this.
Well, let's go back quickly to the Tesla point, right? That this Tesla supercharger for business push, which was light on actual details, no clients. Usually when you do this kind of thing, you would have a flagship client to go, even like the Semi, has Pepsi or a Frito-Lay or somebody to kind of lead the line with it. This was really just it's a new webpage. There's a little bit of a different kind of spin than something like the BP Pulse deal, which was better part of 2 years ago now, $100 million in, BP Pulse kind of bringing out superchargers, V4 superchargers that were branded with BP network, not just crickets on that. I know we've seen some planning on, I think the site in Troutdale, Oregon had some Tesla units in there, and there were some of the gigahubs have been mooted to have a supercharger, but really there is nothing in North America that I've seen that has supercharger hardware that is not Tesla.
Yeah, and if I can, the narrative there was that, as you say, everyone was so excited that Tesla was going to be selling their hardware to CPOs who could put it in and white label rebrand. And I don't know of a single instance. I think there was one install in Europe. I forgot the name of the CPO. And as you say, there was the site plan showing superchargers, but I think a lot of those have been rewritten. I know the one in Ashburn, Virginia, outside the Dulles International Airport, those site plans have been rewritten to have Alphys. And I think what was happening is Tesla made that announcement before Alfie showed up into North America. And once Alfie showed up in North America, all of a sudden it was no longer necessary to use the V4 cabinets from Buffalo. We can now do Alphys with silicon carbide rectifiers in order to have near lossless energy transfer and the longer cables and the reliability that the brand is known for. And so I don't know of anyone who's gone with Tesla, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. And so I think the Tesla for business is kind of a way for them to expand their addressable market to additional customer bases that are basically fleet operators who want a solution in their parking lot, and for some reason they don't want to use Alfie. And from what I'm hearing, Alfie might be a little bit constrained in production right now.
Well, I see you kind of, I think the distinction there is the key, the CPO versus an actual site host. Like it's they're either selling to a network and they go and drop these in a massive portfolio that they already have, or maybe this is really kind of mom and pop. They're looking at, because I think the minimum you had to put in was 4, so there is some a significant amount of outlay there. But superchargers are cheaper to install generally, maybe 2 to 3 times, and maybe they're looking at these kind of individual, maybe in my area, kind of the Nurias who've gone with ADS tech, but the smaller regional footprints who are not necessarily CPOs and really don't want to be, but will start to slot into some of these more small footprint 10, 20, 30 sites, and get that larger presence of the superchargers as it gets to V4 true kind of 1000 volt cabinets, that kind of thing. The only thing that I think is a nuance there that may be tipping in its favor of the supercharger for business is that if Tesla decide to put you in their map, suddenly you're getting 50% of the market. As far as I know so far, although they do support certain kind of guidance, and they recently added preconditioning for third-party, charging vendors. It's still, you're probably 9 times out of 10, 99 times out of 100 going to be routed to a Tesla supercharger if you're in a Tesla. If they start to say, well, hey, part of this is that you get our fleet of millions of vehicles, and we're going to, if you're the better option on the route and you've got Tesla superchargers there, or at least superchargers that are managed by Tesla, will drive a lot of Tesla traffic to you, which would previously have been kind of insulated into just the Tesla owned and operated network. So they may have a business, a utilization play there to say, we've got the ability to drive a lot of people to your site, and maybe that becomes a compelling selling point.
Yeah, but I feel like a lot of that marketing too is going to be past tense, right? Because while they're, Teslas are still easily more than 50% of the cars on the road in North America that are EVs, their sales relative to other automakers are dropping. That used to be a really big business case for them is, hey, look, we'll put in our chargers and you're going to benefit from this number of drivers. But that seems to be dwindling relative to the competition. So that maybe isn't a sales point anymore. And then the other issue too is I wonder if that announcement with the BP and the V4 chargers, did that coincide with NEVI? Because I'm wondering if that was maybe also Tesla's kind of bid to get in on the NEVI funding, saying basically, hey, look, we'll sell you the hardware, put in this NEVI bid contract, and then we'll get you this hardware installed. Because that timing seems, and then of course we know what happened with NEVI, the delays and then the planning and then the more delays and the cancellations. So I wonder if that's also maybe a factor that was slowing it down.
It was definitely around that time. That's when the first awards started to be announced. So maybe that was, in the wind as well. Tough to know, and obviously it hasn't materialized. So, but I do want to shout out EG on the Move. I think was the network in the UK that has been using superchargers and has had some pretty good success with them. They've gone from old janky equipment to some very reliable hardware that drivers in the UK appreciate. So it has worked, but again, that's a one small case study on one small market, relatively small market, with all due respect to my homeland. Okay, so we have kind of got a bunch of comments on that, so I'll run back through those. But I think we want to make sure we have time for a Walmart energy update. There's nobody better to go to than Landon. You can certainly check out his most recent one, probably only 4 or 5 days ago, right?
Came out Sunday morning.
Okay, yeah, so this is showing you how quickly things move, that there's already more news to share, and we appreciate you giving us kind of a little scoop here, Landon. But everybody should obviously go to the Arkansas e-Traveler channel, subscribe. You'll get these updates kind of as they break or as fast as Landon can produce them. But this is our kind of little sneak inside peek, so off you go.
Sure, let's start with the network now being open. Last time we spoke, I don't think that anything had really come to fruition yet, but we were working hard to get that going. Right now, Walmart Energy has 8 locations open with a stall count of $1,264 right now. Average price 43 cents per kilowatt hour. Right now, they're all Alpitronic hyperchargers except for the beta locations in Crossroads and Springdale, Arkansas. 7 locations in Texas, 1 in Oklahoma, 1 in Arkansas. Under construction right now, we have 13 that are spotted, 6 in Arizona, 7 in Texas, and those are divided regionally between Alpitronic and ABB. So 7 Alpitronic hyperchargers and 6 ABB A400 locations found in construction. In permitting, minus the update that I'm going to give viewers right after this, we have 86 locations found in permitting. Of the 86, sometimes we are able to find vendor hardware in there. Sometimes we're not. But right now, 28 locations are heading for Alpitronic, 32 heading for ABB. I'll put an asterisk on that in a minute. But Florida right now leads the way with 26 locations found in permitting, 18 in Texas, 7 in Washington, and that's your podium. So a lot going on, obviously. It's every day. I don't know why I'm surprised, but somehow either me or Alejandro or Don at Eving Texans, we managed to find something. It's out there. It's just a matter of time and going and finding it. But just since my last update on Sunday, 11 locations have been found that will be featured in my next update. Maybe this weekend, maybe the following weekend. So I'm going to give you all the scoop if you don't mind here. I enjoy getting to do this. We did this with Walter on Out of Spec Bits. So 11 locations found since Sunday. Supercenter 5211 in McKinney, Texas. This will be the second McKinney location. Alpitronic hypercharger found by Don at EV Texans. Supercenter 2833 in Plano, Texas. A second location in Plano. Alpitronic hyperchargers found by Don at EV Texans. Supercenter 3274 in North Richland Hills, Texas. That is the second location in North Richland Hills. It will be off the Tarrant Parkway. Alpitronic hypercharger found by Don at EV Texans. There's a familiar ring here in there. And then Don found a second location in Missouri City, Texas at Supercenter 5449, though that is the Houston suburb area. Then Alejandro EV66, he's joined the party. Supercenter 5080 in Hurst, Texas. That is in the Metroplex as well. Supercenter 3170 in Elgin, Texas, found by Alejandro EV66. And then Supercenter 6929 in Temple, Texas, between Waco, I want to say, and Austin. I know there's a Buc-ee's there that I've stopped at. So all of those in Texas. Texas has had a massive first part of the week here, all Alpitronic hyperchargers, so we can bump those numbers up now. But then we had a couple of other surprises. Supercenter 5841 in Meridian, Idaho, off of US 26. Actually, Marco RP found that and handed it off to Alejandro, who handed it off to me. So good teamwork working there. Supercenter 3801 in Marysville, Washington, off of Washington State Highway 9. Alejandro found that one. Yesterday, the Jacksonville Daily Record in Florida announced that Supercenter 3308 in Middleburg, Florida, will be getting ABB A400s just off of Florida 23. And thanks to someone filling out my form, when you spot these or whatever, I have a form on my channel that you can fill out and send it to me. A fellow by the name of Nick found Neighborhood Market 5609 in Vallejo, California this afternoon. So congratulations, Eric. You're the big winner today.
Nobody wants to come to New England. No. Pretty sure we got Walmart's, folks.
Well,
awesome.
It's just a matter of finding them. I think Pittsburgh and Manassas, Virginia are the closest we've gotten so far.
Yeah, Pittsburgh works for me. Thank you, Landon. It's really, really impressive how much you're getting there. And obviously, kind of folks can go to the channel we put up there, and we'll put up at the end to help Landon kind of gather these. And it's just amazing how much is coming in. It's kind of almost your own little kind of plug share. type community of folks reporting these things and getting them on your radar.
Well, and I've learned through this, plug share is the Wild West until they lock it down. I'm kind of done with plug share. Y'all can have all the fun you want with plug share, because no matter what I do, somebody's going to change it.
Yeah. I gave up trying to add entries. I just, once they're added, I'll post pictures, make comments, but yeah, I am not.
If I see something egregiously wrong, I might fix it. Otherwise, we'll let it be until Walmart locks it down.
The Wikipedia of charging.
And Landon, while you're rattling them off in the Metroplex, I'm also wondering, now that we're at this point, how many Walmarts are in the Metroplex that don't either have an Electrify America station or a permit, an open, or something under construction? Because it kind of seems like they said, do them all. It's kind of what it feels like. I would venture to say there's not many Walmarts left in the Metroplex that don't have something going on.
Well, that's a huge plot of land. I would imagine that we're not even halfway, because that's just a huge area. But you and I talked about this on the bits thing. They originally announced that they were going to do 15 locations in the Metroplex, and now we're doubling up in cities left and right. So I mean, we're well over 24 now in that area. 2 in
Plano, 2 in McKinney. And
that to North Richland Hills, yeah,
that's to me telling that they're basically filling in the entire map.
They're getting the data they want. They're getting positive feedback. I've been watching their throughput through the app as best I can. I can't do it consistently, but it's going up. It seems like people are starting to notice them more and more, and are charging there.
Yeah, and I'm guessing Walter always talks about this too, about the sleeper sites, but I'm guessing there are quite a few in California. Just looking at that, the permitting, it's difficult to find. I don't think that construction at the local Walmart over here is, and I think Don had mentioned that too. He's saying that if it already has the Electrify America, probably not.
Right. And if I can speak to that just really quick, because a lot of people ask me about this. Do I think that Walmart's going to kick off Electrify America off their properties or replace them? No, because in 2023, when they released their grand vision for this, those EA stations were included in their numbers. So, and now you can go to the Walmart app, and those third-party locations are in the Walmart app. There's no functionality. They're just there. You can see them. But if they're going to include those third-party vendors in their aspirations for 2030, I don't think that you're going to see anybody move until after 2030, if at all.
And then just a fun little bit of trivia, because nothing can be easy in California. You would think that they would properly pronounce Vallejo, but we only do the ho correctly. It's Vallejo. So
okay. Well, and in Northwest Arkansas, we have a large and vibrant Hispanic community. So as a teacher, I've learned my double L's and everything. So, but okay, Vallejo. Okay, lucky Valero doesn't come out when I say that.
It'll always be Valley Joe to me. All right, so there's some through lines of the hardware questions in the comments here that I want to make sure we address before we jump into the next piece. So mostly on the AB 400s or ABBs, A400s. Landon, why do you think Walmart has gone with ABB in some locations? Alpatronic clearly so much better. Let me just read out the other couple of comments here, then you can kind of give your take, Landon. Sky, who is definitely inside the sector here, does like it as a piece of hardware. Software workflow is top notch. Hopefully, the reliability is there as well. Competition good for the US market. They are one of the only ones, at least, who have got on the Alpatronic track that have also factored in somebody else. Maybe not to the extent that it's 50-50, but I definitely at least not putting all their eggs in one basket, I guess. And then where else did we have it? Leonard had a question on how many are actually seeing in the ground of the ABBs. So I'll leave that open to you. But okay. What are you thinking on the kind of ABB tip?
So when it comes to ABB, I'm kind of like a lot of people. I I get really nervous when you talk about ABBs in a Walmart parking lot because of Electrify America. But folks, I have now laid eyes on these things. There's one in Bentonville that's right next to an Alpitronic hypercharger that's used for testing. They got something with those ABB A400s. They are huge. They are impressive. The screen is immaculate. They draw the eye. They are just gorgeous, even right next to an Alpitronic hypercharger. Please do not knock the ABB A400s until you've tried them. Now, they claim that they have revamped their cooling. They have an entirely different system for it. That remains to be seen. I think maybe Circle K had one in the ground somewhere, maybe in North Carolina or somewhere over there with an Alpitronic hyper. I don't know. I think I've seen one maybe. But I'm not going to knock ABB until I try these, just because it seems to be in an entirely different echelon than the Terra units and the high power Terra units. Like they've got something with those ABBs. But the good news is, if we're talking competition here against Alpitronic intra-network, they've got the reliability factor that we know about from Europe and such. And now we're seeing it here with their reliability. So they both have something going for them. They both have something that the other doesn't bring to the table. And it's just up to the team at Walmart to figure out how do they best utilize those, what they bring to the table,
I think they're going to find out pretty quick also, because once they start getting the throughput, they're going to see what's it like here and then what's it like over here. And I think they'll be able to, I don't know if we'll see what they see, but I think they'll be able to make a decision pretty quick.
But also, why the split? I know someone asked about that. Why the split? I honestly think some of that is Walmart is trying to go, full tilt boogie, as we say, regrettably, in Arkansas. If you know our former football coach, but like they're trying to go drop the hammer, put in the left lane. They're going to need more than one manufacturer to get that done. And so if Alpitronic is supplying half of Walmart, Mercedes-Benz, BP Pulse, Iona, like there's got to be a bottleneck there, and Walmart has just said we'll bring in someone else, and it seems to be working for them because they are in the ground now in Phoenix. They're not open, but we know of at least 7 units across maybe 3 different locations, and I'm sure that needs to be updated in PlugShare, that are in the ground now. And not to mention the testing one in Bentonville. So it's pretty impressive. I think that it's going to be a great showing for them.
Yeah, and Landon, I was going to say too, I think when they initially did ChargePoint, that was the thing that Walmart kind of stepped back from, is I don't think ChargePoint was able to produce in the volume that Walmart was expecting. So with their ChargePoint Express Plus 400 kilowatt chargers, I don't think that they were able to make enough units to satiate what Walmart's plans were. And then the only other thing too I was going to mention is about ABB, and I'm old enough that my bones hurt. But the high powered chargers, the ABB Terra HP, they have been very problematic. But before there were any faster than 50 kilowatt units in the ground, the ABB Terra 5.3 and ABB Terra 5.4 were some of the most reliable chargers anywhere. Right. And so they were just, I don't know if it's a fluke with the Terra HP or what, but I like you said, I wouldn't sleep on ABB. They know what they're doing, even if they maybe had some hiccups and some stumbles.
And I think some of that is coming from Electrify America, because like my station in Rogers, they were, in 2019, 2020, putting in that technology from 2017. This seems to be skewing the other way with 400 kilowatt charging and giant screen real estate and using Freon and a closed loop system to cool to the pin in the handle. So I think that you're absolutely right. Like I'm not sleeping on them at all. In the beginning, I was, because of that reputation, and it may not even be their own fault at ABB that they have that reputation. But now that I've seen them in person, I'm ecstatic that they're choosing them, especially in Florida, because again, that's where half my family lives on my wife's side. So I'm always down there, and I'm excited to see these along I-95 and I-4.
It's also worth spreading this out a little bit. We have the same with Signet, right? They had pretty, bad reputation in some parts, and it's largely because of people's experience with the older Electrify America sites. A lot of certainly the electric era sites are using the latest Signets. Francis Energy, sorry, Crazy Postman. So using
being next to Oklahoma, that's all I hear right now is just how Francis Energy is just riding a dead horse, and
but it's worth
that other manufacturers are caught up in that.
Yeah, it's worth. I mean, as he points out, it's worth really delineating Francis as Oklahoma Francis. With the best will in the world, lovely place, obviously, but they're building out of there, and half of the network is the older. Could be anything: PTC Power, ABB. I don't think they use ABB actually, Signets, but there's a lot of older hardware there, and then jumping into the newer stuff, that's where they're going with the NEVI fund. So the expansion that's happening in New Mexico, Pennsylvania, Ohio, a bunch of different states that they've moved into more recently, that's all the latest Signet hardware. And aside from the fact that it's very expensive, don't get me onto pricing with them, but the hardware itself seems to be holding up so far. Obviously, you've got to get years under your belt to really kind of push this, but we should give the ABB a chance, as you say. I don't want to linger too long on hardware, because we do need to get into more EV driver-centric topics beyond getting the thing started. Mostly, sorry, go ahead, Walter.
Just very briefly, someone was mentioning Kempower, and I just happened in one of my sweeps to come across one in Whitestone, New York. It's an 8-stall Kempower station getting ready to come online. It's northeast of LaGuardia Airport. So Kempower is doing things. They're just a little flying under the radar a little bit.
It sounds like a trip I need to make.
I have a couple.
Revel uses them. That's not a million miles from, it'll be in San Francisco, right? So that's kind of in your neck of the woods. I know they've used them in New York City as well.
And they got 5 on the boards for San Francisco. They got 1 open in the Mission District and 5 on the boards.
Okay.
And so Electric Era is paired with Supercharger, right, as a network. It's a weird sort of who's the CPO, who's the back end installer. Supercharger also works with Kempower, so their site by San Francisco Airport that's going in is going to be a Kempower site, and then there's also another Kempower site that's going in a Briar Patch. Well, okay, the store is Briar Patch, but
that sounds more like a abandoned charge point in the middle of New Mexico to me. Stranded assets. Okay, has everybody had their fill on hardware manufacturers? I also want to make sure we shout out Don at EV Texans. I know you mentioned them a lot, Landon, but he's doing an excellent job with Kathy scouting out the sites, but also now contributing to the permitting side of things and really scoping out these places.
He is a huge asset to EV drivers in the DFW Metroplex and points around as well. So go check out his channel. He has a blast doing it, and he is really good at FOIA requests and inspection reports and things like that I just don't have time for. So he's a tremendous follow. You can go much further in depth with some of these things on his channel than I'm able to do.
Absolutely. And same to Alejandro EV66, Marco RP1, lots of people who are putting that information out there, and we just kind of communicate it onwards to you. So thank you to everybody who does that. Moving on to related to hardware, but also really down to site host and where you charge, kind of spinning off the Walmart conversations you've had over the last few months and the summer kind of downtime, Landon. We have some discrepancies between how people see the dwell time at these, a lot of high power 400 kilowatt, we're talking 600 kilowatts now, going into some of these sites potentially, and then how long are people actually going to stay there? I guess you've had some pushback or some heated debates, I guess you would call it. But
right.
Can you set the contents for us and kind of give us an idea?
Sure. As long as we all promise to leave here being friends, yes. Because when I first started tracking this and talking about this, I didn't receive pushback. I have to remind myself it's Walmart that they're, voicing it. I just happen to be the face that's conveying. I'm the messenger, right? Don't shoot the messenger. But towards the beginning of this, a lot of people were wondering why it wasn't level 2, and thought that would be more utility for them than DC fast charging. And I'm, even as a new driver, maybe maybe ignorance was bliss, but I did not quite understand that because of dwell time. And I realized that the only times that I find level 2 charging to be effective are, Sunday mornings while at church, because I do a lot of things with the music and everything, and I'm there for 5 hours. And so that, or at home. And so I was just like, how do you think going to Walmart's going to help be, how is level 2 going to be a benefit to you there? And I just kept trying to figure it out, and I couldn't. But then as people kind of got more used to Walmart Energy and the idea that they're proposing and everything, that kind of went away on my channel. But when I did the interview with Out of Spec Bits and Walter, it roared back, a different audience, I guess. And so I just wanted to get some thoughts here and share my thoughts, because I think there are a lot of different variables at play here that create our individual perspectives on this. And if at the end of the night, the best thing we can best agreement we can come to is to disagree, I'm okay with that. But for the folks who are watching, the first thing that you have to remember about Walmart Energy is that even though he's not there anymore, Vishal Kapadia said, and has been quoted several times as the leader of that project at the time, that they view this as a standalone profitable business, meaning that the only connection that they have to Walmart as a retailer is property. And we get to reap the rewards of that because they get to streamline a lot of things. They get to use their property that they already have. They don't have to go find it. They don't have to go find 20 plots of land and hope that one of them hits, right? So things are very, very streamlined on that. They are building DC fast charging stations on property that they own. They don't see it as a complement to their grocery experience, because what their grocery experience is so different now than what many of us, even myself, grew up with. In the 90s, when I was getting close to double digits in age, we went to what were called the Division I stores, the hometown discounts that kind of had a cafe in the front, and it was all dry groceries, and it was mainly department store style things, and you had the neon around the edges and bags of popcorn up front. There were a lot of ways to spend a few hours in there, especially with kids. Let them go play the video games in the back on the GameCube controller or the PS2 controller. Super Centers had McDonald's back then, and you could chew up quite a bit of time there. Now it's the drink section at a lot of Walmarts. They ripped out the McDonald's, and now up front is, a Subway or something that's, doesn't quite have that kid flair to it. I think a lot of people have to realize that the shopping experience at Walmart has evolved, and it's not going to a grocery store. Grocery stores still exist. I'm just advocating that Walmart doesn't necessarily see themselves as one, because obviously they have a lot more, but also the ways that you can get that. Just here in Northwest Arkansas, I know this isn't the same for everywhere, and this is where some of my bias or skewed vision of this may come into play, but I can go pick it up. I can have a Spark driver drop it off in an hour or less if I wanted. I have Walmart in-home. That is so awesome. They open the garage door, wear a body cam, they drop the groceries at the back door, and then they open the garage fridge, put the milk, put the chicken in there, and then close the garage door and leave. They have delivery with fixed wing drone here. They have delivery with hexacopter drone. And me and Don can tell you that is coming to a lot of you because we're seeing it in the permitting as we're searching for Walmart EV charging. So the most recent count that I have is for the people who do go to Walmart and shop at a more traditional sense, even that's become streamlined to where the average dwell time at Walmart is 31.8 minutes. And for a lot of people, that dwell time is 0 because of the different options that they have. So my question is if the average dwell time for Walmart is 31.8 minutes, how much good is level 2 going to do you? Probably not a ton. And remember, level 2 is a wide band. My car can take 11.9 kilowatts, but that's hard to find except at my house. Usually I'm finding 6.6 or 9 at the most. And then some people have 80 amp charging where they can accept up, upwards of 19. Good on you for having it. But there's such a wide range in L2 that you're talking about magnitudes depending on where you find it. So that's my question here is for the people who are saying L2 at Walmart, is that hearkening back to a reality that doesn't exist anymore? Or am I getting a different perspective because I'm seeing the whole picture that Walmart Energy is trying to paint, and also living in Bentonville with the Walmarts that we have being, the ones that they show off to the rest of the world when, it's investor week here.
So I'll steel man this for you, Landon.
Okay.
And I can think of 3 use cases where it makes perfect sense. So a lot of people are thinking of it from the context of plug-in hybrids. A lot of plug-in hybrids don't even have DC fast charging. So they want to be able to, they're only going to add 10, 20 miles of driving range in the time that they would be in a Walmart, but that's more than half of the range that they have as a plug-in hybrid. The other issue would be e-bikes, and that's something that you generally don't see at Walmart because I'm guessing your experience is probably similar to mine. You don't go to Walmart to pick up a couple of items and throw them in a basket and put it on an e-bike and then pedal away. You're usually getting 50, 60, 100 pounds worth of groceries and sundry items. But I could see that too. Or even just like e-motorcycles that don't have DC fast charging. You can get a reasonable amount of range even in a 20 to 30 to 40 minute session. But for me, the biggest reason that I think makes sense is not even for the customers. It's for the employees themselves. So if you work at a Walmart, you don't want to be using a DC fast charger. You want to be using a level 2. So if you can sort of balance the need for that audience with the fact that level 2 is so low cost, and I'll say this, I think maybe where some people were worried is with the reliability of some of the CPOs that we've seen in the past. And you hear a lot of people say, well, I want an option that if I show up at a Walmart and all of the chargers are broken, level 2 almost always works. I could see that too, but I just don't think that that's a reality, and that's not really a world that we should be living in. But I think for the employees, it makes the most sense. Our Walmart used to have designated employee parking, but now they just basically, employees just park wherever they want in the parking lot, but along with the customers. So it could make sense from that perspective if you want to encourage your employees to be able to drive EVs and to be able to charge. Why they would do that and not at home, I don't know, but it's
right.
an option.
Well, and remember, these conversations that I'm seeing and having, they're coming from the customer perspective. Like I totally understand the employee thing. I mean, over at New Home Office, they have 300 of those L2 for their corporate employees. The price on them is ridiculous now, but still they're there. So it's more of a customer facing idea. Now, I had not considered the plug-in hybrid piece to that, but I think my brother's wife has one of those now, and I think a lot of people kind of see those as like, I use the battery. I'm okay using the battery for my commute, and then going to gas and recharging it when I get home. Like, I feel like the plug-in hybrid people have a set pattern that they kind of understand. Okay, I'm going to go from this, from the motor to the engine, and that's how they, understand and live with that happily. So I could see that, but for the sake of like EV adoption, that's really kind of where this is coming from, with people who kind of like to push back on DC fast charging. And I'm like you, I think the reliability aspect of it just makes people nervous who have dealt with Walmart or chargers in the back of a Walmart parking lot before. But we're talking about a whole new generation of hardware coming in.
Walter, how are you feeling on the kind of dwell time? You can have level 2, or if you want to bring it even to slower DCFC kind of options, whether that makes any difference to the argument. But what do you think on that side of things?
So 2 things. Landon brings up a good point about Walmart. My personal opinion is that they've grown to be kind of like a mini shopping center under one brand. So there's the grocery, and I just actually swung by on my way home because I'm looking for the first spade of dirt to get turned on my local Walmart, courtesy of Landon's permit spotting. And so there's people coming in and out of the grocery store, obviously doing grocery shopping. And then there's people like over at the garden center doing stuff for prepping for fall. And then, Halloween decorations are over there also. And then there's the actual big box store, which is a different shopping experience altogether. And then there's also the fan link of third-party services at the front of the store, people going to get eyeglasses and things. So there's multiple different shopping experiences with different dwell times within any given super center, in my opinion. So I don't think it's a one size fits all, but I do think that the standalone business model with the Walmart energy stations kind of fits into that smorgasbord model where there's multiple different things underneath one brand. There's garden center. You can get potting dirt for a quick gardening project that you're working on, or you can go get your grocery. You can do it all underneath in one trip. I think most people who are going to Walmart are going for like one of these specific things. No one really cleans the entire palette of going to Walmart and doing all these different types of shopping all the time, at least not regularly. I think it's safe to say that it's individual things. So I think someone going to a Walmart for electric vehicle charging as a standalone business at a convenient location that's known to be safe, that's open 24/7, 365 in most instances, that has basic amenities of security and restrooms that are upkept, probably makes sense. So matching it to the Walmart dwell time, I don't think is necessarily relevant. And I guess you were talking about comments on the out-of-spec bits video. I didn't actually delve down into those after the video. So
I try not to, but I every now and then I'm like, okay, what's the broader audience say? Because my audience, I know who I can count on to say what. And so I like to look at the broader. And that was the thing, was like there were quite a few people who would say they got me if they have level 2. And I'm just like, for what, 3 kilowatt hours of energy? Like, I just don't understand it.
Yeah, and I guess
what's my point?
As I'm saying, if someone's cleaning the entire palette of everything that Walmart has to offer, then I guess level 2 has a place. And as Eric was referring to the other options of people driving plug-in hybrids, employees, and e-bikes. But my personal opinion is this question of dwell time. We've been kind of harping on a C-store operator as primary location for DC fast chargers to go into because the dwell time matches so well and they're already geared for servicing people in travel. But what I'm starting to see is that QSRs are starting to recognize that the dwell time of their customers matches very closely to people who are charging their electric vehicles on a DC fast charger. And we don't want to slow this process down. And I think the tendency is with faster charging to be better. And so when you look for a business that is ubiquitous throughout the United States with a proven model, quick service restaurants or fast food are everywhere. The recent Fruta Iona charging station, if you look at where it is, it's immediately adjacent to a QSR. It's at a Taco Bell, and across the street is a DQ, I think, or something like that, which matches dwell time perfectly because the amount of time it takes for you to go in, get counter service food. And actually, I'm a older American. I actually like to sit down and like chill, relax a little bit. My car is actually finished, and I'm like you, Len. I got the 150 max speed, but even still, that puppy fills up faster than I can comfortably sit down and enjoy a meal. But even still, that dwell time seems to match very well. And so even Uber Eats drivers posting up, getting a refuel mid-shift sort of thing. So two in particular, Tim Hortons out of Canada recently announced a very big DC fast charger implementation deal, and Bojangles here in the Southeast are both planning on putting DC fast chargers on their property. And I can see a future state where the market evolves and C-store operators slowly start to feel significant erosion of their ability to service these traveling population that are now getting their refueling at quick service restaurants instead. So I think that's something that's likely looming on the horizon. But as far as dwell time goes, you really have to look at what the underlying business is. And I agree that in the case of Walmart in particular, it is very likely going to end up just like their fuel business. People show up to Walmart and they buy fuel at Walmart, and it's not necessarily tied to the store. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't.
I think people kind of forget that piece sometimes too. Like I go to Walmart because it's cheaper for gas. Like they usually
it's reliably cheaper. Yeah, reliably cheaper. Yeah.
And look, a lot of people have asked me on this. I promise you that I have no reason to doubt that Walmart Plus will eventually get you a discount on EV charging. I think that that's coming soon. It's just we got to build out the network, and then we'll tackle that later.
Likely Costco too.
Sure. And so even Costco now, they're trying to figure out ways to make sure only members are using their EV chargers. So I think something that you mentioned also, like with the eating bit or whatever, when we talk about Walmart's dwell time being 31.8, remember that's average. And so now I'm starting to wondering, because you say that, because you are wiser than I, or what, more advanced in years, I guess, like you're advocating that you're on the upper echelon of that, right? Of the 31.8, like you're up here. The average, I will tell you, I'm down here because mine are getting delivered. And if I'm going to Walmart, it's because I forgot to order something. I'm going to get it and I'm coming out. And that's it. So I'm the one that's on the bottom end bringing and we meet in the middle at the 31.8, right? So is there a trend there with who drives a battery electric vehicle? I don't know. But that's why I'm kind of advocating that we really should make sure that we understand that this is a separate venture, as you mentioned, that falls. Yes, it has Walmart in the name, but the benefit of the super centers is that this is viable property that they already own. And I think one other thing that people bring into this equation that they don't have to when they talk about dwell time at a Walmart, we have seen nothing about stall fees or idle fees. That has not come up. We have not seen any idle fees. And so who's to say, but right now I don't think their throughput matches at their chargers, I don't think that throughput necessitates it right now. And so I think that, yeah, if you're going to be in there spending time, sure, just stay there. Like, we don't need any more money than we're already getting right now. Like, it's not that valuable of a real estate in the parking lot because they're picking places that won't be iced. And so I think that it's just, idle fees are not a thing right now with them. And if that's going to make you more comfortable to grocery shop while you charge, that's great. But they're totally separate ideas with under the Walmart umbrella.
From the early days, there will be people who have had their Electrify America session at a Walmart shut off when they were in a long line, and the idle fees start occurring at 40 cents a minute, and you have the lovely decision of whether to abandon your entire shop and run out to the lot or eat the idle fees for 10 minutes.
And Steve, you actually kind of chimed in on what I was going to mention is I think, Landon, most of the time Walmart knows that if you're spending long enough that you'd be accruing idle fees, it's someone in the store's fault, right? Not enough registers open, the lines are too long, right? You're waiting on someone. But in terms of the dwell time, I just wanted to comment on this. And this is one of the reasons why I've actually been a huge proponent of Walmart as a DC fast charging location from the very beginning. It is kind of like a Swiss Army knife of stops, whether you're traveling, whether you're local, because they have full service grocery stores. I've talked to people that don't realize that you can actually go in and order a hot meal from the deli, right? Mm-hmm. You can just pick up coffee, you can pick up donuts, you can pick up snacks, you can just run in and use the bathroom and grab an item that you need and be out the door in 5 minutes.
You would not notice a difference between 8-year-old Landon running around a Walmart and a 33-year-old Landon running around a Buc-ee's.
Right. Yeah. It's so the dwell time, it actually does not surprise me that the dwell time is 31 minutes or 31.8 minutes, because the average for grocery stores in the United States is about 45 minutes. The average for a gas station convenience store stop is 10 to 15 minutes. So the fact that it's right in the middle tells me you're right. There's probably a majority of people are there somewhere between 20 and 40 minutes, and about a quarter of the people are there for less than 20 minutes, and about a quarter of people are there for more than 40 minutes. And so that use case, that makes perfect sense dwell time wise for a DC fast charger. So and even the fastest charging EVs right now, very rarely are you going to find an EV that charges to full in under an hour, right? Like maybe the EGMPs, maybe Porsche, but even then in that last 10, 20% of your battery, it's going to be, trickle charging at 20, 30, 40 kilowatts while you're waiting, for Gladys to finish, checking out your bags and packing your cart. So
there's also the different types of user, right? So I think Anthony had mentioned that he only uses Walmart's, when he's on the road. So yeah, this is in our current iteration of development of the EV charging landscape, fast charging landscape, Walmart is synonymous with road trips for that reason. But a lot of this is going to be these stores like the one you mentioned. It was McAllister is one of these. It's not really on a interstate route from what I recalled in Oklahoma there. And some of these, so Ariel Batista had said, many people who can't charge at work or at home. And L2 is in there, certainly that could be a factor if they're there all day. But even for the people who are local, they don't need to get on the road. We kind of put this in, well, you need to be fast and done and it all has to align, but that's really only true of people who are trying to do a road trip. If you're local and you are doing your shop, first of all, if you're a family, maybe I've done this with my wife, even on the road, they go in, do the shop, and I'm just with the car and I'll move it, come closer to the store, pick them up, off we go. Landon mentioned a use case where you can do curbside and they'll bring the groceries to your vehicle, right? So what if that feeds into the app and they start to align all that together, and as you're charging, you're doing the charging piece and letting them know you're there. They bring it out, you load it up, 10-15 minutes if you're in an EGMP, you're done, you go on your way. So there's all these various kind of use cases, especially the local piece where fast charging, even if you're done in 20, 25 minutes, it's not a problem because we're out shopping. You spend a bit more time in the parking lot and then you go to the store, or you, as Eric said, you just kind of, eat that time, and there's not an idle fee again. If Walmart's got all this data, right? So it's more of a Tesla play here. They're all stacked in, vertically integrated, so they know how long people are staying. And if there's chargers locked up for 20, 30 minutes at a time, and queues start forming, then they know they need to throw in another one, or they know they need to manage that thing. But it is so many different use cases because Walmart is such a behemoth of different
Right.
reasons to be there.
And that's why, like when we were talking before this, I think that we have to recognize that there is a growing divide between a grocery store and a Walmart. When we try to apply grocery store logic and grocery store time management to a Walmart, it's not going to mesh easily, and trying to put charging your vehicle into that only makes it sloppier, I think. So it's growing pains, if anything. And I think once people really start to see these locations pop up, become useful, and I will advocate 100% of the time that faster, I don't want to say is better, but faster can be more useful. Because let's say that Walmart does put in level 2 and I have a 30-minute dwell time or what. Well, that means that I'm also going to have to rely on workplace charging, home charging, charging at the gym. Like to rely on a level 2 at a Walmart means that I'm going to have to rely on a level 2 at a lot of places as well. And we just don't have that. I mean, Eric, maybe Southern California, but I just don't see that here at all.
And don't forget, if you're banned from a Walmart, you want 600 kilowatt chargers, you want to be in there 5 minutes and gone, because otherwise they're going to kick you out. So we won't ask why, but we do hope there'll be a video on it.
I can only speak to.
I asked why, he won't answer.
I can only speak to the reasons why I've seen people 86th from my local Walmart, and none of them are good. But I was going to say, though, that, several weeks throughout my EV ownership when I was in Southern California, I never had charging at home in Southern California. It was always workplace charging. But there were a couple of different occasions when those work chargers were down. And I can say from my personal experience, speaking to what you were saying, Landon, I don't think I ever used level 2. It just did not make sense given the time constraints and where you needed to be at a particular place. So whether it was 30 minutes and treating myself to a meal out, or whether it was plugging into the DC fast charger behind the grocery store or by the department store, right? That's the kind of charging that I was doing in the city when I did not have workplace or home charging. Never once thought to use a level 2 charger just because it wouldn't have made sense. There's no place I would be for long enough that it would make sense for me to be publicly level 2 charging. So like I said, the only place that really makes sense for that is if you're an employee and it is your workplace, because that's someplace you're going to be, in theory, at least 4 to 8 hours.
And I'll be honest, when I went and did that video with Don and Chakota, that was the first time I had DC fast charged since the end of June. My life is totally different than it was last year now, having a job in Centerton rather than in Springdale. I can charge for 5 hours on Sunday morning and I'm good for the week, because now it's not a 75-mile commute like it's a 22-mile commute, and it's got hills. My efficiency on the way to work is 3.2. On the way home, it's 4.5. That's unheard of compared to what I was doing on the interstate last year. So now, I'm starting to understand, no, I think I prefer level 2 over DC fast charging, because there is a little bit of a stress that goes with DC fast charging because of the pressure of time and everything like that. But if you're going to be at a place for a long time, level 2 makes perfect sense. I'm just saying, I don't think in modern America, Walmart is that place.
Right. And I was going to say no spoilers, but do you think maybe the reason your car charged so well in that video is because it had rested?
No, it was because it was off. I will give GM a little bit of credit there. You know, when I bought it, they advertised 40 minutes. And now if you turn off the air conditioner, you can get it in about 33. So that is progress. And that's when Walmart really is nice to have somewhere to go that's air conditioned and such. And so I think now we're getting to that point where if we're going to have to stay out of our vehicles, put up a shade and walk away, that the amenity game is going to have to continue to step up.
It's a conspiracy.
See,
They're forcing us in the stores.
So we are
GM's getting kickbacks.
Running up against time here. I want to make sure we answer a couple of questions that came up. Brad had asked, why didn't Walmart put any chargers at their gas stations? Has that ever come up in your research?
Walmart's also doing a huge C-store push right now across the country. We're finding permits like crazy for those. Some places are getting chargers and C-stores like Saxe, Texas. But they're not near the gas stations. You can walk to them. But as far as, look, I don't want my car near a gas station while it's charging. It just seems like something that could go wrong. I kind of want it in an obscure spot that nobody is going to bother or be worried about, but it's still well lit and secure, you know, and won't be iced. So, yeah, they're on property just like the gas stations, but I'm an advocate for don't put them side by side.
And both Alex and Scott had brought up Sam's Club. We do see them kind of intermingled with the Walmart and Electrify America and Sam's Club Electrify America. What are you seeing on that side?
So Sam's Club on its own, I have not come across a permit yet. And some of that may be that's just not what we're searching right now. Again, what we know about Walmart energy is just what has been revealed to us by our own efforts with Alejandro or myself or Don or whoever sends in a form. But I know it's a part of it because otherwise there wouldn't be two Sam's Club branded chargers in Bentonville. There's an Alpi and there's a ABB A400 that say Sam's Club on them. And I've seen them on LinkedIn and seen them with my own eyes. So they're out there. Right now, there are several Metroplex locations that are like dual campuses. You have a Walmart Supercenter and a Sam's Club, and they kind of stick the charger in between the two. So they're a part of the conversation. They're just not at the head of the table in that conversation. But I suspect that Sam's Club is going to be a part of this. It was mentioned in the press releases.
Okay. Appreciate the insight. Thank you. And taking us back to Texas super quick, greetings to Computer Joe. Just bought his first EV this past June. Congratulations. How can a CPO be convinced to install DC fast charging between El Paso and Van Horn? Not knowing the territory, I can't tell you for sure, but I know there are at least 80 more NEVI sites in Texas that are on the hook, and about 20 of them are under construction or in progress. So I'll have to look and see if any of those fall in your kind of catchment area there. But Texas has pushed ahead with its National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Program and is probably, I think it's the leading recipient of funds. So if that is a remote stretch, that funding is still available and there's a good chance that will flow into that space, I would think. So that would be one way to convince them. The other way would be to get a petition together and start showing them that there's a ton of EV drivers waiting to use that site. And then Doug Stevenson had mentioned really earlier on, sorry for not getting to this, that the Canadian EV mandate has been suspended and under review. That is a topic that I'm going to save because it's relatively fresh. I'm going to bring that into the next one. I think the topic of EV mandates has been really interesting to me and whether or not it's counterproductive. So definitely one to hit in a future episode. So thank you for mentioning that, and we'll definitely put it in the hopper for a future discussion. So do tune in again. Anything I missed, folks, before we sign off here? Anything you want to kind of leave folks with for the new season coming up?
We got discussion around the loss of the tax credit, and as you say, that's paired with the EV mandate, so that will definitely be interesting to discuss. Several people have kind of trodden that path before us, so we'll see where that pans out.
Landon, what should we keep our eye on in the next month or so, whether it's your projects or something else that we should be looking for?
Well, as mentioned, with a newborn on the way in November, my episodes will, for a little while, become a little more spaced out. But since I had 11 locations tonight, you can tell they're going to be information dense, right? So a little bit of a change there. And if I could implore I think we share a lot of the same audience amongst us. Like, I'm a spinoff basically of the Network Architect channel. And so he's Happy Days and I'm Joni Loves Chachi. So if I could implore this audience as well, I have a Google form over on my channel that if you have a spare moment to look through permits in your local jurisdiction, or if you see something going on at your Walmart that you think is worth the effort to share, there's a form in my channel description. And of course, my charging tables or data tables for this charging project are there if you are ever interested in seeing what they look like with your own eyes and see what's in and around you or forecasted in and around you. But definitely, since we put out that form, so many people have stepped up and brought so many new things to the table in terms of locations. And that's just what it's going to take. Walmart does not have any obligation to tell us anything. They're not going to tell us anything. They just play cards to the vest, and that's fine. Makes it more fun for us. So if you have a moment in your time, I would greatly appreciate it if you just search your local jurisdiction's permits. And if you find anything with Walmart EV charging in the last year and a half, just fill out that form, send it my way. It'd be great.
The channel is on the screen here, youtube.com/the Arkansas e-traveler. You can also, I'll put this in the show notes, the description, the pinned comment, so it should be very easy to find both the channel and the form. So use them both, please. If you haven't subscribed to Landon already, I'm sure probably no one here has not, but if you're a repeat viewer watching the replay or you hear this on a podcast, jump over onto YouTube and check out the Arkansas e-traveler to help out that effort, because we appreciate it very much. Eric, the last word should go to you, and let us know what you're up to.
Yeah, I have quite a bit of traveling that I need to do. I'm also starting a Substack. I kind of fell behind on some of my articles. One of them took far too long to write, but I'll be publishing that one pretty soon. But yeah, I'm like I said, I have a few different travels. I'll be seeing if I can get an update on that Mercedes-Benz Hypercharger. There's a few networks coming up and around in my area, and then Landon, I'm going to be checking out some of the Walmart locations around. If I can't find, some of the permitting is a little bit obfuscated just with some of these rural areas. They don't like to publish their permits in a
California is just, it's so foreign in terms of permitting.
Yeah. So I'll be checking out some of those sites in person just to see if I can see anything that's coming up, and then I'll give you a heads up. So
thank you.
Hope this should be a next. You're welcome. This will be a busy next few weeks for me, I think. So
So stay tuned to News Column 3705 there, and we'll link the Substack if I can get that link. I'll slide that in the show notes as well. I did not mention the Network Architect channel link, but that is the one you need to go to. Also catch Walter on Out of Spec Bits frequently with weekly DC fast charging updates and reports from across the industry. Very valuable, and thank you for those. And I have started, because I know a lot of people found it hard to keep track of the schedule. This is actually just an overall EV infrastructure newsletter, but this will also subscribe you to the Coast to Coast EVs notifications. So if you let me know by reply that when you subscribe for this that you want to get those notifications, I'll send them your way. It'll be usually the Sunday before we have a stream, and if there's any replays to share with you, I will do that. It will be infrequent. I won't spam you, just enough to get you the Coast to Coast reminders if that's something you like. And with housekeeping done, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and I was just going to call out, Mike had mentioned a couple of things too. Yeah, I mean, we did talk about the tax credits, but then also California is ending their EV carpooling stickers too. So, which I can tell you from personal experience was one of the single biggest incentives for selling plug-in vehicles in California. So, that's
maybe we have a EV policy topic on our hands in the next show or two. Okay. Good stuff. As I say, all the links that we've discussed will be in the show notes. You will find the replay next day on YouTube and the various audio platforms. We're glad to be back, and we're glad you joined us. Thanks so much for your time, and we'll see you in 2 weeks' time. Cheers, everybody. Oh, wait, no. Cheers, nerds.
Happy trails.
Bye.